Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Wanted to, on behalf of Trustee Sharp and myself, I wanted to take just a moment to say thank you to all the community members that attended our 5 in-person town hall meetings all across each of our precincts. And along with that, we received some feedback that a virtual option was desired. And so we're taking the time this evening to run through an additional town hall. The work that we're doing, we feel like, is very important. A lot of data to review over the next year, and just utilizing our community members, our parents, and educators throughout the district is going to be key in this. And so thank you for your participation, and we hope this is informative. And with that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Rollo.
Good evening, everyone. As Trustee Ratliff said, we are very grateful to everyone who came to our town hall meetings and grateful to those of you that are watching this virtual option. Last fall, we went through some very difficult decisions, and we knew they were going to be difficult, but we knew that in order to continue to provide the very best programming that we can for our students, we needed to make some tough decisions around reducing our facility footprint in order to be able to afford providing that rich programming for our students. And so at the end of that process, the Board of Trustees, with our recommendation, voted to close 3 schools at the end of last year. But they also charged our administration for developing what we call an optimization framework. And this is a tool that will help future boards, current board and future boards, and future administration and current administration in making those difficult decisions moving forward. And so this is the very early part of that process. And so we're glad to have everyone participating. Just some logistical things with this virtual meeting. A few things to note. In the YouTube video description, there are 3 links. The first one is a link to a Google form where you can submit questions throughout this town hall. These questions will be answered at various times throughout this meeting, and you can submit them anonymously if you would like. Second, you have a link where you can share your contact information if there's something specific you would like for us to follow up on with you after this town hall. And then third, there is a link where you can sign up to participate in a future focus group related to these discussions. Just know that this event is being recorded and will be available to view after the meeting on our YouTube channel, Lubbock ISD's YouTube channel. So as we begin tonight, some feedback that we would like. The first is around some data reflection. As we are presenting this information tonight, please submit your feedback or questions about the data and information we're sharing via the Google form that's linked in the video description. We will answer these questions, as I shared before, at various times throughout tonight's presentation. I want to give you some questions to kind of help guide your thinking as we share this first bit of information. First, what resonates with you from what we share with you? What surprises you? And what additional questions does this raise for you? So we will jump right in. First, what is district optimization? District optimization is a process designed to ensure we are offering all students and staff a high quality experience through deployment of our limited resources in alignment with our district and community priorities. So the purpose of this town hall tonight is to determine what are those community priorities and the district's priorities as well. So again, thank you for participating. I'm going to share some celebrations. We're going to share some data with you tonight. We're going to spend some time talking about envisioning our ideal student experience. And then we will share a proposed decision-making framework, and then we will wrap up with the opportunity for you to make comments or ask questions about what you hear tonight. So first, I want to take a moment and start with some celebrations. Lubbock ISD in 2019, 42%, so less than half of our students were educated in an A or B campus. And our trustees at that time set what we call our North Star goal. And that is by 2026, at least 80% of our students will be educated in an A or B campus. You can see that at the end of this last year, we scored 63%. So we still have a ways to go to reach that 80% North Star goal, but we definitely are moving in the right direction since 2019. And we all know what happened in the middle between 2019 and today. But we are still moving in the right direction regardless. We're also very, very proud. The district receives a rating just like campuses do on an individual basis. And we were a C-rated district in the previous year, and we this year are rated a B. Now, we want to be an A, but we are moving again in the right direction. So that is because we have phenomenal teachers working with our students, and we are providing rich, robust academic opportunities for our students to grow. We know that not everything we do in our schools is measured by the A through F accountability rating. However, that is how we are judged in the state of Texas, and there's not anything that we would not want our own children to know and be able to do that's measured by this rating system. And so we know that our teachers and campuses do a lot more than what's measured on this, and they do so much to support student learning. But at the end of the day, we are striving to have at least 80% of our kids in an A or B campus. We have already done some amazing work to improve our portfolio of schools. We want to make sure that we're offering our students great opportunities in Lubbock ISD. This last December and at the end of this last school year, the board voted, and then we actually closed the schools at the end of last year. Bean Elementary had the students who were attending Hodges join their family this year. In Rush Elementary welcomed the Overton Elementary students, and then the students who were previously attending O.L. Slayton are now attending Atkins Middle School and Dunbar Middle School. And we've had a very successful transition and a smooth start in that work. Previously, we've also made some transitions in providing some new opportunities for students in the district. McCool Academy is one of our 2 magnet schools. Our other magnet school is Talkington School for Young Women Leaders, but McCool was opened more recently, and this is a project-based learning magnet school. It does not have an attendance boundary. Any student from across the district and even outside of Lubbock ISD boundaries are welcome to attend McCool, and it's a really innovative approach to the way that we educate our students with some cross-curricular planning and activities. Brown Elementary has gone through some redesign, and they use Project Lead the Way, and they also have some excellent programming for students around medical professions. And then Wester Elementary, we are super proud of the redesign that Wester went through. They have a STEAM focus, science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics, and that campus was an F-rated campus, and I am very proud to say that that campus is now an A-rated campus. So fantastic improvement at that school as well. Dupree Academy has gone through a restart and is doing some transformational work with some of our students on an alternative high school campus. Cavazos has gone through a restart as well and is doing some blended learning opportunities for students. Bean Elementary has gone through some redesign with their dual language program. And then Carmona Harrison Elementary was a brand new elementary that was part of our 2018 bond election. That took 3 teeny tiny campuses in North Lubbock and put them together into a brand new, beautiful state-of-the-art facility. They have an agriculture STEM focus. And so we offer some unique programming throughout the district to ensure that we provide great options for families within Lubbock ISD and even outside of Lubbock ISD. And then we've had some building investments, both completed and planned. Carmona Harrison, as I mentioned earlier, was one of those. We also have a new Agri-STEM facility that is in its 3rd year. It is on the Texas Tech University campus and is a fantastic partnership. This opened up access to students from across the district to agriculture career pathways and also enhanced the programming options in that career pathway field as well, because we all know we live in the food and fiber capital of the world, and we want to make sure that we're providing students opportunities to learn to prepare them for those careers. And then we passed a bond election last May. We are extremely grateful to our community for supporting this bond. This bond has many things that will enhance our classrooms and buildings across the district, including touching every single middle school in the district with renovations, but it also includes 3 brand new elementary schools. This will consolidate previously 6, now 5 elementary schools into 3 brand new buildings. And this also opens up a unique opportunity for us to look at how can we make these schools special? What can we offer at these schools, such as dual language or other opportunities that will make them unique and provide a different opportunity for kids within Lubbock ISD's boundaries. So this isn't something we are just starting today. This is something that the district has been working on for several years. When we went through that process last fall to make the decision to close those 3 campuses, we heard from the community. We heard loud and clear that the community wanted to know how schools are performing. They wanted to know how every individual school is performing within the district. They wanted more diverse and high quality experiences for our students. They wanted to see a decision timeline that would allow for significant engagement with the school community and allow for adjustments to be made. And then they also wanted data-driven and transparent decision-making processes. So grounding in our why, I'm not going to read Lubbock ISD's mission and goals to you because those are on our website and something that we talk about a lot in community meetings. But to support that mission and those goals, some things that we've already done is made some tough decisions about school consolidations. We did receive strong support from our community for the bond to support new facilities. And then we've made some tough decisions around programming to make sure that we could increase teacher pay, not just teacher, but all staff pay. And we know that we must continue to make tough choices to meet our mission and goals. But the most important part of our mission and goals is that we want to make sure that we are supporting and equipping all students. So I'm going to turn it over to our Chief Innovation Officer, Ken Caceres, and he's going to share some data around our current state.
Thank you, Dr. Rollo. So as we talk on this next section about our enrollment and some opportunities in our district, we want you to come up with some key takeaways from the information that we shared this evening. One is that enrollment has declined and is expected to decline, which is a primary driver of our district budget. These declines are not equitable across the city, and this has resulted in some small schools. We have been able to upgrade or plan upgrades for many of our facilities, but we know there's still work to be done. And we know students are not getting our desired experience in all schools, and we have heard the same from our community. So when we look at our district enrollment over the last 10 years, you can, in this next chart here, you can see that there has been a decline in enrollment since 2015, 2016. At that time, our district was sitting just above 27,000 students. After the first 6 weeks, we are now down to 23,250 students. So you can see that gradual decline in the chart in the information here. We had a slight uptick right after the COVID year, but we've had gradual declines, and the decline that we've had this year is a little more than we had anticipated when we were looking at budgets and students for the 25-26 school year. We also know that when we look at our schools and having small schools, they're more expensive to operate. You can see in this chart here, we have elementary school cost and middle school cost. And so the smaller the school population, you can, and through the chart and do these different dots that represent campuses throughout the Lubbock Independent School District, you can see that, yes, that some of our schools, smaller schools, are a little bit more expensive to operate than schools that have a larger student population. We also have numerous buildings that are not being fully utilized and many buildings with low capacity. Currently, 14 of our buildings are sitting under 70% capacity, meaning that the entire building is not being utilized. Some classrooms may be utilized in spaces for things that the campus needs, but when we're looking at space for instruction, this is down. 12 of our campuses are sitting at 90% capacity. 8 of our campuses are sitting at 80 to 90% capacity, and 5 are between 70 and 80% capacity. And a lot of our elementary campuses range from 350 to 740 students. And we have some campuses currently that are sitting just over 50% capacity. We also have many older buildings in our district. I mean, we are a district that's over 100 years old, and so that is also, when we look at our footprint and our infrastructure, that's also the case. 63% of our buildings are actually 60 years or older. And even though we've had some investments, we have some plans with the AgriStem. Currently have the AgriStem complex that's been recently completed. We have Anita Carmona Harrison, and we have the bond, but we still know that there's some additional work to do with the passage of the bond and looking at improving our infrastructure in our district. So as a result, students in our district are not always getting the same experience. We want to make sure that we give the students that robust experience that every student deserves and desires in our schools. We want to make sure that we have full-time nurses, wraparound supports for our students, the elective offerings that are offered equitably across the district, making sure we have robust extracurricular activities, and a very strong career technology and education programs that our students will be able to then take and utilize in their future careers. So we also shared a survey with a lot of our families, our students, our community stakeholders, and we had over 3,100 responses to the community survey that we held throughout the month of October. And so there were a few things that came up in that survey. When asked what would make the biggest difference in your students' learning experience, the top 3 answers were safe and friendly atmosphere at school, improved school buildings, classrooms, and supplies, support for our student behavior and discipline. When asked how Lubbock ISD could better support your family, most respondents said mental and emotional health services. When asked what makes a school the right choice for their student, 88.5% said high-quality, caring teachers were very important. 82.9% said a safe and friendly atmosphere at school was very important. When asked what matters most in choosing a school for your student, most respondents said academic programs would matter the most. When asked what area would you like to be more informed about, the top 2 answers were information about how the district spends its budget on my students' educational needs and information about what my student is being taught. 58.7% of respondents said that access to specialized job training programs were very important or extremely important for high school students. 72.2% of respondents would likely support the consolidation of small schools in order to offer students more opportunities, and 54% of respondents indicated that most helpful things that Lubbock ISD could provide was mental health supports. So that's just a brief overview of the information and the data that we received from the survey. We have a lot of information to go through in the Office of Innovation, but we will make sure we have a report soon to our board with more details about the questions that were asked and the answers that we received as respondents, from our respondents.
All right, so at this time, we will see if anyone has submitted a question.
We do have a couple of questions. So the first one is, what type of feedback have you received from families and staff who had children at schools or who worked at schools that have been consolidated into other existing schools?
For the most part, that feedback has been very positive. We had a lot of great celebrations at the end of last school year so that we could close on a positive note. And then we did open houses and welcoming activities throughout the summer to make sure that all students felt comfortable going into their new schools. So what the feedback we have had has been positive.
And then the next question is, what is the district doing to boost transparency with parents and increase attendance and retention of students?
So increasing attendance, we do have an attendance task force that works diligently on that. We have seen an increase in attendance this year, so we're grateful for that because our budget is based on average daily attendance, not enrollment. And so it's important that students be at school every day, but not necessarily because of the budget, but because it's hard for them to learn if they're not in school. It's more important to support their learning. As far as retaining students, the factor that we see affecting our declining enrollment the most is a decrease in the birth rate. And so that is something that many urban districts like Lubbock across the state have witnessed. The birth rate is down nationwide in general, but in Lubbock and in other urban areas, we do see that we have fewer children being born within our district boundaries. And that is really true throughout Lubbock County, with one small exception, which is not in Lubbock ISD. And so our birth rate decline, we know from data, is the biggest factor in why our enrollment has declined. We do have charter schools that draw some of our students. We have more kids who actually transfer into Lubbock ISD than who transfer out of Lubbock ISD, with the exception of charter schools. One phenomena that we see growing is the number of families who are choosing to homeschool. And I went to a presentation recently with a demographer, and he had done some research on why families choose to homeschool. And it is usually not because the family has a problem with the school district in their community. It's because they want more flexibility in their schedules. But the biggest factor is the decline in the birth rate.
I might just add on the first question. I think consolidations was difficult, and we all knew it was going to be difficult, but I think that's why the board has charged Dr. Rollo and her team, and they've done a great job in this optimization plan, because we want to make sure there's not surprises. People know, and that information will be posted about where schools stand in this metrics that's going to be created. And I think it keeps from having surprises, and that gives also lots more time for families to make decisions and for families to adapt, and schools to prepare for, we know that there are going to be down the road at some point more consolidations necessary. And so I think it gives an opportunity for there to be the celebrations we had last year, and then just good planning to be ready for that. But I agree. I think the feedback that I've heard, families, for the vast majority of families and staff, felt very good about the consolidations and how they transpired. So,
All right.
Okay, next we will talk about defining our ideal student experience. So for this next section of the presentation, we again would love to hear your feedback on questions about the data and information that we'll be sharing via the Google form linked in the video description. We would also like to hear your feedback on the following. When you think about these elements, which were most important to you in choosing a school, or if not a parent, do you think are most important for our students? And when thinking about each element, what do you think is the most critical to be most critical to be provided? So again, you'll see the mission and goals of our district, and again, it's just making sure we're supporting and equipping all students, maintaining our facilities, engaging, building, and nurturing strong relationships, attracting, developing, retaining, and rewarding highly effective teachers, and being responsible stewards of our resources. But we also know that we're not giving all of our students this experience every day, and we want to hear from you on how we can improve this. So when we talk about our ideal student experience, we're going to look at 5 different categories here. First is academics, the rigor of instruction, courses that are offered, intervention, supports for struggling students, and acceleration for advanced students. As a district, we want to make sure that we provide all of the opportunities that our students have in order to have a rigorous academic experience, so that they are better prepared when they leave our schools and enter the workforce or enter higher education. And so when we're having this ideal student experience, we want to make sure we have the right number of advanced placement courses, dual credit, on-ramps, just all the great opportunities that we can provide for students to be able to participate each and every day. We also want to think about our physical space and our building conditions. We shared earlier in an earlier slide that a lot of our buildings are at least 60 years or older. And so we want to make sure that we are having specialized spaces that are up to date, that have science labs that are utilized fully by our students. And that's one thing that we're looking for in the future with our bond, is to help improve some of these science labs in a lot of our middle schools. We want to make sure that we have athletic facilities that can enhance our student learning, so that they are able to participate and compete with districts around the area along with the districts and other schools within our own district. We also want to make sure we have electives because, again, when we think about the student experience, yes, we hope that students are here to learn and understand mathematics and reading and writing, but we also know that students come to school to be social and learn and evolve into things that they enjoy, such as band, choir, theater, athletics. So we want to make sure that we have courses that are beyond just the core academics that are offered to our students at all of our schools. When we have some of our schools that have a smaller population with students, it's sometimes difficult for some of our our teams or our organizations or our performing groups to have enough students to be able to compete in a, for example, one-act play, since they have to have a certain number of students they're not only acting on the stage, but also behind the scenes, making sure that they're doing the technical aspects of theater. We also want to make sure that we have robust extracurriculars, including after-school activities, sports, performing arts, things such as chess club, which is very popular amongst our students. We want to make sure that we have enough of a population of students within a building so that they can take advantage of all those great extracurricular activities that they come to school for, that a lot of times gets them out of bed to come to school and be able to fellowship with their fellow classmates. And then we also want to make sure we have strong wraparound supports for our schools. We want to make sure that we have counselors that are attending to the needs of the mental health needs of our students. We want to make sure that we have nurses there that are there so that they're there full-time and are able to take care of our students when medications are needed to be administered or if there's a health issue that takes place at the school. We also want to make sure that we have strong enough opportunities so that we have volunteers and other people that come in and support our students. So again, when we talk about the student experience, we want to talk more about just the courses, the academic courses, but again, just wanting to make sure that our students have a well-rounded experience as they prepare for adulthood. So at this time, we will see if we have any questions or feedback about elements of our student experience.
We have one question related to that information. What steps is the district taking to increase teacher and student engagement in the classroom and interest in the extracurriculars offered?
So I would say that one way that we are working to increase student and staff engagement in instruction is Lubbock ISD takes advantage of what we call high quality instructional materials. And then we also provide a lot of professional development for our teachers that help ensure that they're using instructional strategies that promote student engagement. We want students to be actively engaged in the learning process and not just sitting passively and listening to a lecture all of the time. There is a time and place for that, but most of the learning needs to be hands-on. One of the things that we find with our extracurricular and our elective courses that we offer is those are very engaging for students because they are very hands-on and students have the opportunity to do something that they choose and that they really enjoy. And so those really, just by the nature of the course and by the nature that students choose those, students are very actively engaged in those courses. Not all students go to school for math. Sometimes it's math that they know they need to take and learn from because that will help prepare them for their futures, but it's band or orchestra or football or whatever the extracurricular or elective course is that really gets them there and gets them engaged in the learning environment. We also have a no cell phone policy that is new this year. We had it in place for elementary and middle, but for high school students, this is new. The students are not allowed to be on their phones from the first bell of the day until the last bell of the day. And we were nervous about this, but one thing that we have noticed is that it really has promoted that student engagement. Our principals and teachers are reporting that they get to see the kids' faces in the hallways, and students are interacting with each other during lunch instead of just on their phones, and we're seeing that it has been a positive change. All right, so I will move into this next section and share with you a proposed district optimization framework. So as you're hearing this next piece of information, we would like to hear your feedback around the proposed 3 primary metrics and the contextual considerations. And so some questions you may be thinking about, or what questions do you have about what I share? Add any clarifying questions or other reactions that you may have. And then when we did the face-to-face, we actually got some feedback on posters. So just as a reminder, what district optimization means, it's a process designed to ensure we're offering all students and staff a high-quality experience through deployment of resources that are aligned with our district and community priorities. There are some different district optimization levers that we can, and in many cases have, taken advantage of. One of those is school consolidation, which we did take advantage of this past school year at the end of the year. We can have a school redesign, and we have done that in several occasions as well, where we take a school and we rethink what could this school look like and sound like. The perfect example I can think of right now is Wester, going from an F to an A with a STEAM focus. So that is another lever. Another lever that we do have that we could take is boundary changes. And what that means is right now, students live in attendance zones. We only have 2 true magnets, and those are McCool Academy and Talkington School for Young Women Leaders. Those 2 schools do not have boundaries, attendance boundaries. But many of our schools have specialty programs. And so students are allowed to transfer either to one of our 2 magnets or to a school that has a different offering than where they live, because they want to take advantage of that as a best fit for their family. About half of Lubbock ISD students do not attend the school to which they are zoned. They attend a different school by choice. So changing attendance boundaries does not have as much of an impact when you have open transfer policies for students. We could also look at expanding programs that we know are drawing students to transfer to campuses. And then we can look at just coming up with new programming. What are some new programs that we might want to consider as a district? An example of something that comes to mind that we have used in the past is Estacado Early College High School, which is a partnership with Texas Tech University. This was a completely new program that we began offering in Lubbock ISD several years ago, and it has drawn students from all over our city and outside of Lubbock ISD boundaries as well to attend that school, because students can earn up to 60 hours of college credit from Texas Tech University at no cost to the student. So that's just an example of a new program. So the 3 primary proposed metrics that we have been discussing, and this would be looking at each individual school in the district. The first metric for that campus, for any one campus, would be overall enrollment. And we would look at that data on a regular basis over time. So, for example, over the past 3 years, has this campus's enrollment decreased or increased or fluctuated? And we could come up with some basic thresholds for elementary schools, middle schools, and high schools. So for example, and this is not a determined number at this point in time, but we might say that a campus, an elementary campus with less than 400 students over time might hit that metric. I'm not saying 400 is the number, but we are looking at enrollment numbers for each campus. That is data we can easily pull and monitor and make more public. We can also look at facility utilization rate. When we made the decision to close 3 schools at the end of last school year, at that point in time, we had over 6,000 empty seats in our elementary and middle school campuses. Some of those campuses were operating at 50% and even a little bit below capacity. In other words, that campus could hold twice as many students. And so a number that we've discussed is looking at campuses that are under 70% utilized. A third metric that we can look at easily is per pupil spending. You'll remember a graph from earlier in the presentation that showed that smaller schools are more expensive to operate. And so we could look at campuses and whether or not they fall above the district average in spending per student per year, or is the campus below the district average at per spending per year. I want you to note that between each of these three metrics is a really important word. It says "and." So in other words, a campus that hits all three metrics as a concern, that might be a school that we would look at for future consolidations. If your campus is lower in enrollment, but your building is 90% full, then the campus may hit the first metric, but not the second metric. And then we would look at per pupil spending as well. And so this would be a public-facing dashboard that every campus could see where they fall within these three metrics. And they can watch it over time. So any school community can see where do we fall with these three metrics. However, we know that our schools are not just numbers. There are also some proposed, that graphic's not in here, but there are also some contextual considerations that our board could look at. For example, is there a program at that campus that cannot be picked up and moved to another program? Some programs are easier to move than others. An example would be when we closed Overton Elementary. Overton was serving our deaf ed students, but that program was easily picked up and moved to Rush Elementary. Other programs may not be as easy to move. Another example of a contextual consideration might be, is there another campus that is in close vicinity to this current campus where we could move the students and it has the capacity to hold them? An example of that would be when we moved Hodges students into Bean Elementary with just a few portables. Again, Hodges and Bean will be getting a new school as part of the bond. Another example of that is when we closed Dupree Elementary as an elementary school. Dupree is still a building that we utilize for our alternative high school campus now, but Dupree students were easily moved to Brown Elementary, which was less than a mile away and could hold the students. So those are some contextual considerations that the board would want to make sure that they're looking at to ensure that this is a good decision moving forward. So, do we have any questions or feedback on the metrics or contextual considerations?
There are no for this section.
Okay.
If I can jump in and just make a comment on one of the previous questions, talked about transparency. Creating a dashboard that's public facing, that has all of this data on there, that's easily accessible. It sits on our website. I think that would be a fantastic step in the direction of transparency that our families would be looking for.
Absolutely. So campuses would know where they fall and can watch that over time and know if their school could potentially be considered for consolidation. Absolutely. All right, so looking ahead, I just want to share a little bit about the timeline of what we're looking at with this. So in August, we actually started this project planning and data gathering around what a district optimization framework could look like. Throughout this fall, we have been gathering stakeholder engagement, feedback to inform the development of a district optimization framework. And that feedback has taken the form of these town halls that we did in Purpose and this virtual one that's happening right now. It's also through, we had a QR code at our town halls, and you also have a link in the description for this virtual town hall where you can provide us feedback through that as well. And then we also had this district survey that was open throughout the month of October. And that survey, again, we have over 3,000 people that responded to that. And so we did gain a lot of feedback and engagement through that process. We are also going to have a quality seats analysis at our board meeting next Thursday that begins at 5 p.m. Ken Caceres will present that to us, and it again just digs into what you have seen in this meeting, but also it will go into more depth around other data points about our district and look at that information. And that, again, will be next Thursday. Then after we have a draft, we're going to go back and meet with focus groups and present a draft district optimization framework to the focus groups and get additional feedback. So throughout this fall, we've had a lot of opportunities for people to engage, share, and give us feedback. And we'll also coming into November, now that we are in November. Hopefully by December at our board meeting, we will have a district optimization framework that will be presented to our Board of Trustees for potential adoption by the Board of Trustees. And then in the winter and spring, once that framework is adopted by our Board of Trustees, we will again gather stakeholders and we will share the district optimization framework that has been approved, share information about that dashboard that's public facing for transparency to help build awareness and knowledge around this framework. The first time that the district would use this new framework to guide decisions around closing or consolidating schools would be during next fall of 2026. So I want you to hear loud and clear that for this school year, there will not be any additional decisions around closing schools at the end of the 2025-2026 school year. The next time that this may be considered would be next fall of 2026 using this district optimization framework that we've been discussing today. So there are no schools closing at the end of this year. So now we just have an opportunity for you to share any other additional questions or feedback that you have for us.
We just had one more question. Somebody asked, what is the time commitment for someone who wants to serve on the focus groups?
There should be a link if you're wanting to join one of our focus groups. We have roughly about 90 people who have signed up to be part of our focus groups. And as soon as we're also analyzing and getting all the data put together, and once we get that, we will send out emails to those who are interested in participating, and we will share those dates and times on when we will meet to kind of go over the different frameworks and see which ones we will push forward and bring to the board in December. But if they're interested, they can use one of those links and just share that information that we need their email address, telephone number, who they are, so that we can add them to the list.
And our plan is because so many people wanted to be in a focus group, each focus group will just meet one time and give us feedback. So I'm guessing hour and a half long meetings, and we will send out the dates that are scheduled and let people give us the ones that work for their schedule, work best with their schedule. So it really is an hour and a half long commitment.
Questions that came in?
All right. Well, I'll see if our trustees would like to add anything else before we close out.
No, I think just to reiterate, we appreciate so many people being engaged, so many people wanting to participate in the focus groups, and we make better decisions when we're collaborative and collective, and I think this process has been a great opportunity to do that. So appreciate everyone who's been involved from the district side and in our community.
Yeah, and I would add to that something I said in our District 3 town hall to wrap up. This is not the end of the process. This is just the beginning. I mean, this is a long process of analysis and community engagement. Grateful that over 90 people have signed up. Please don't let that be a deterrent. If you're out there and thinking you might want to sign up, please sign up. Please be part of the solution.
And I want to thank our trustees, Ratliff and Sharp, for being here tonight. And I also want to thank the trustees for pushing us to develop this optimization framework. I think this is going to be a very positive step in the right direction to increase that transparency, to increase collaboration, to increase creative problem solving of what our community wants to see in our schools and how we can best utilize the resources we have, because they are not infinite. They are definitely finite, to ensure that we are the best district in our area. So thank you for participating tonight, and reach out if you have any additional feedback or questions, or if you would like for us to follow up with you on something. Thank you so much.